Hello and welcome everybody to the Gambit Guide. And today we start the new Gambit line, which is very popular on ICC games. And I know that many of you would be very happy to include this line in your open repertoire. So once again, we are looking at position after d4 and f5. And as I know, in Dutch defense, which is a result of the f5 move and Black is trying to take control over the e4 square, is one of the quite rare guests in the today's grandmaster practice, but it's quite often we can find in the open repertoire of the intermediate and in the advanced players. So in the tournament, the games, so in many situations, quite active Dutch defense is a good choice for your open repertoire. So after f5, in a few lessons ago, I considered one of the very interesting opportunity for white to play e4, and very aggressive move which invites black into the Staunton's gambit after f takes e4. So in that case, we saw that after knight c3, white is keeping quite interesting compensation for a pawn, and in many lines even white could create a direct attack against the black's king. So don't forget that f5 move is quite weakens the diagonal h5 e8. So black king could find himself in quite dangerous situation in many lines. So z1 is interesting and quite, I would say, unusual idea. Came from a chess player named Krejcik, who discovered quite interesting opportunity to play g4. So at the same time, attacking black's pawn on f5, and after f take g4, when black is accepting the sacrifice, white has a few good opportunities how to create the attack against black's king. So white, of course, could play immediately e4. This is one of the main targets in the opening. So the opening principle says that we have to fight for the center, and after g takes f4, white has the quite obvious aim to take the full control over all center squares. Look at that. So white has strong pawn on e4 and pawn on d4, and black's pawn on g4 could be, I would say, attacked quite easily very soon. Indeed, after f take g4, white could also play for other, I would say, temporal attack after h2, h3, trying to open the h file. So in that case, after g takes h3 and knight takes h3, so white is getting like I would say close to Benko gambit ideas. So in that case, instead of opening the a and b file as from the lectures we already started to play, I mean, the opening we already started to play Benko gambit after d4, knight f6, c4, c5. So just like to show you, just to remind you a bit. So after d5, b5, c takes b5, a6, b takes a6, and here knight takes a6, so bishop takes a6 is the strongest continuation. So in the Benko gambit, black is trying to organize strong pressure over the a and b5 pawn, and quite similar ideas we can also find in wing gambit in the Sicilian defense. So in that position, so white, let's say, could play d4 or immediately capture on a3, and it's quite symmetric position, quite I would say interesting compensation white has, because we have already a5 open, b5 open, and the opportunity to create a strong center after d2, d4. So if we look at Krejcik's gambit ideas, that we can realize that h3 move is also quite interesting. So white is keeping quite strong initiative on the king side in that case. So don't forget that it's a quite big difference when you just create the pressure over the queen side and when the target is a black's king. So I would like just to show you a few games which finished quite quickly when black just didn't follow the opening rules we already studied and find himself in the very, very tough positions very soon. So after g takes f takes g4, h3, g takes h3, knight takes h3, black in one game decided to play d5. So it's not only black is now fighting for the center square e4, but black is also intending to bring his bishop to f5 and to protect black's position on the king side. So that's why white is immediately playing queen d3, also preventing black from playing bishop f5 and also intending knight g5. After knight f6 and knight g5, suddenly black already in quite serious trouble. Look at the position. Black almost never could play g6 because after knight takes h7, and doesn't matter which piece black is going to capture, and knight takes h7, queen takes g6, or rook takes h7, so in that case I just simply capture and then captures on g6 with a decisive advantage already. So on king d7, no need even to capture the knight, because bishop h3 is going to checkmate black's king very fast, just in 2 moves. After e6, queen takes e6, game is over. And if you try some other move, like let's say after knight takes h7, so maybe black could play bishop f5, then knight takes f6 cannot be so pleasant for black. So position is very, very dangerous. Since e takes f6, white could play queen e3 check, and of course we can also play immediately queen b5 check. So black is in big, big trouble. With the same idea, queen b5 check also intends queen takes b7, and rook on a8 is hanging. So it's quite dangerous already. So black played queen d6, knight c3, g6 finally. So knight takes h7 now doesn't work because g6 square is under black's control. So look at the queen. But knight b5, so white is finding just other target. And when black decided to move his queen to c6, trying also control the c7 pawn, also at some point to control the g6 pawn, white immediately answered e4, opened completely the position in the center after d takes e4 and queen b3. It's a lot of problems for black how to stop white's queen f7 check. By playing a6, black totally overlooked that he never can capture the knight on b5. So the bishop f4 move just creates decisive threats over black's position. So there is no any chance for black to stop knight takes c7, and at the same time black cannot accept the sacrifice because after bishop takes b5 the queen is gone. So the opportunity to counter-attack after knight d5 doesn't work as well. So it looks like black is trying to prevent white from knight takes c7 and attacks the bishop on f4. But white is winning with quite easy combination, and I believe that it's not a big deal for you to find it. Simply we remove the defender of the c7 square, queen takes d5, and after queen takes d5, knight takes c7, king d8, and knight takes d5. White is just getting the piece up with no compensation and continues threatening knight b6, knight f7. So black is in totally hopeless situation immediately after the opening. So this is one and quite, I would say, typical game when black just lost the, I would say, attention and played a few inaccuracies and just were punished so fast by the powerful white pieces. So let's look at one more typical, I would say, typical kill in Dutch defense, Krejcik gambit. d4 f5, g4, f take g4, e4. So now we can ask, okay, what would play in case black is just simply trying to play d6 and protecting pawn on g4. So in that case, after bishop d3, knight f6, h3. So we are ready to play gambit. As I said before, our main problem here is to find the open file for our rook. So when rook starts working after g takes h3, knight takes h3, and then knight comes to f4 or to g5, the black position becomes very, very dangerous. So black answered knight c6, trying to follow the rules and to continue developing. H takes g4, so white now intending g4, g5. Bishop takes g4. f3, bishop d7. This move, of course, cannot be recommended. Indeed, it's not so easy to see what's surprise white prepared here. e4, e5. So black has no answer but capture on e5. And now, finally, look, bishop g6 already we can win exchange. Because bishop g6 forced black to capture h takes g6, but in that case rook takes h8 and the rook is gone. Indeed, white has even more powerful continuation. So decisive shot in this position would be rook takes h7, and this move white found. Just 9 moves, and black's Dutch defense completely destroyed. So on knight takes h7, white is playing bishop g6, checkmate, and the rook takes h7 will lead to the same result after bishop g6. And the problem is that after rook takes h7, black just cannot save his king. After e6, the rook is gone, so black is just rook down with no any compensation. Game is over. One more game. So another example. After d takes f, d4 f5, g4 f take g4, h3. So sometimes black plays d5, queen d3, knight f6. So no need here to be square that we are having here a pawn down, and black is intending to play g6 maybe, and then bishop comes to f5, the knight could go to c6. So white is tempting capture on g4, straight in g5, so force black to capture. And in that case, we just bring our bishop to h3, and all light squares in the black's camp could be exposed very soon. Bishop takes h3, knight takes h3. So already white is intending knight f4, knight e6, knight g5, knight takes h7. So after g6, knight g5, and knight c6, white finished the game with the same standard combination we already studied before. Knight takes h7, and black is in very, very bad position. So white is intending queen take g6. So in case of rook takes, knight takes, check. And we can continue queen f5 and queen takes h7, at least winning a pawn with only slight compensation for black. Let's say after queen e7, queen takes e7, etc. So but that of course was the best way for black to achieve some counter chances, because in the game black decided to protect the pawn after king f7. This is of course a big blunder. After knight g5 check, suddenly black cannot save the game. So it's or checkmate. After king g7 we even play knight e6 and the queen is gone as well. Okay, so one more example. d4, f5, g takes g4, f take g4, h3 and d5. H take g4, bishop take g4, queen d3. So white is intending h7 pawn. Once again, on knight f6 we would play immediately bishop h3 like in the previous example. So in that game black decided to try and prevent white from rook takes h7 move. So he played suddenly queen d7, intending after rook takes h7 to move his bishop to f5, so creating the double attack threat. So it seems like white is going to lose his rook or his queen. Indeed, white is having just brilliant answer, and it's not so difficult to find. So white is using the geometry motifs here, just demolishing black's position just in one move. So can you find it? I guess it's not so difficult. Bishop h3. Look at that. Black's bishop cannot capture the queen because after bishop takes d7, knight takes d7 and rook takes h8, white is gaining just decisive material advantage. So rook on h8 gone, g8 knight is under threat, the bishop on d3 is also under threat. Unfortunately, black cannot do much. Rook takes h7 will be met by bishop takes f5. And once again, black is going to lose material, or queen or rook on h7. So this bishop h3 move is absolutely decisive one. So black decided to move bishop takes h3. But then catastrophe is coming very soon after queen g6 check, king d8, rook takes h8, bishop e6 only answer. So now white could easy play queen h7 and there is no way to stop rook takes g8. White's position is totally win since knight f6 will lose another piece. So all black pieces here in so bad position. Rook takes f8. So this bishop is also hanging. Okay, next game between Anatoly Zhuravlyov and Alexander Lebedev, played in Rybinsk Open Tournament 2006, already shows that even in quite, I would say, serious level, this Krejcik gambit could be quite significant weapon against the Dutch defense. d4, f5, g4. So black decided first of all not to accept the pawn sacrifice and play d6. Indeed, white just forced them to play f take g4 after queen d3. So pawn on f5 is under attack, so white captured. So black captured on g4, h3, knight f6, h take g4, bishop take g4. So the pawn is not on d5, but pawn on d6. So of course white could immediately play here bishop h3, but Anatoly Zhuravlev decided to answer knight h3. Bishop takes h3. Bishop takes h3, knight bd7. So it's quite difficult to recommend this, I would say, trading of strong black's light square bishop for white's knight on h3. Even white just intended to play knight g5, and after f3 it's quite difficult. Was difficult to find the good square for the bishop, but now bishop e6 is just almost decisive move. So white is getting huge advantage. So the main problem here, how to stop rook takes h7 and then queen g6 checkmate. It's very, very difficult. So black had to play queen c8, freeing the square for the king, for escaping from this almost checkmate threat, queen g6 later on. So white is simply continued developing the piece exactly according to our rules. c5, bishop takes f6, e takes f6, rook takes h7, and black position becomes just absolutely lost. Rook takes h7, queen takes h7. So now black is under threat. Queen g6 check and then queen f7. Queen c7 check. Queen f7 intending bishop takes d7 and then queen takes f8. So only answer is bishop e7. Knight comes to c3. It's ready, knight d5. C takes d4 and knight d5. So black had to call it a day because queen a5 check b4 would lead to the checkmate threat just in the next move after queen takes e7. So it's quite interesting that for the first time in my life I saw this d4 f5 variation when during the session of Botvinnik Kasparov chess school, which I attended in 1986. One of the newcomers, and it was a 13 years old Alexei Shirov. He was not grandmaster, not even a master. He was a candidate master, just showed us one of his game from the Latvian championship. And he said that after d4, f5, he decided to shock his opponent and put on here the great move, g4. And I remember that all audience were just a bit shocked by this interesting pawn sacrifice, and all were smiling, in also the Garry Kasparov and all the kids between us. The g4 move was just like a joke, and I remember that in that moment Botvinnik looked at Shirov, who is like, okay, what we are doing here? We are in the Kasparov Botvinnik school, not in a park. So he was not so happy about this g4 choice by young Alexei Shirov. Okay, continue with the next game. So played once again with white pieces, quite strong player, almost 23-50, Rossi Carlo against Panderli Giorgio in 2005 in Padova Open. After d4, f5, g4, e6, g takes f5, e takes f5. So in that game, as you can see, black is not going to accept the pawn sacrifice, but the king is just opened already quite seriously. So white has e4, very strong move. So this is another pawn sacrifice already cannot be captured. So black cannot accept this sacrifice. After f takes e4 and queen h5 check, black's king is under decisive threat. So g6 is necessary. Queen e5 and black lost the rook on h8. So after e4, already necessary is to play move like queen e7, trying to protect his king side. e5, so white just got important tempo for achieving the strong center and preventing black from developing. So now knight f6 is not possible. d6 is necessary. Knight f3, supporting the e5 pawn, and black decided to play knight f6 using that white's pawn e5 is pinned right now. Knight c3, knight c6, and now white already start playing quite concretely. Queen e2. So drawing black's attention that the king on e8 is still in the center. So black has to move his knight from f6, but in that case knight e5 would be just very dangerous. So black just cannot play move like knight g4 because after knight e5 the game is almost over. So black's king is under threat. E takes d6, and black's queen cannot keep protecting the king because knight takes c7 would be decisive at that point. So black moved his knight to e4, but just added to white's positional advantage also the extra material. So after knight takes e4, f takes e4, and queen takes e4, d takes e5, white is developing his attack by simple development move, bishop g5. So white is also intending knight takes e5, also intending d4, d5. Black is trying his last chance for counterattack. Check on b4, c3, queen takes b2. But after rook b1, his king is in a very bad situation. Despite the fact black won now, back some pawns, after queen a3 and bishop b5, white's development advantage is a decisive factor. So after bishop d7, white just simply moved his pawn after d4, d5, and black just cannot save his game anymore. For instance, after knight d4, white simply plays queen takes e5, and then knight on d4 is gone. After knight e7, possible just simply bishop takes d7, knight takes e5, and no development and no way to stop the checkmate threat. So king e8 only move now, because after king c8 and queen g4 check, white is coming with a typical smooth root mate. And after king goes to e8, after knight takes e5 check, so white could choose here between rook takes b7 or simple short castling. There is no way to stop white's decisive attack against the black's king, which is still stuck in the center. So after d5, black moved his bishop to d6, but after d takes c6, decided that it's already too much. So white got clear and huge material advantage. And definitely there is already no any way to survive. So today we started to look at Krejcik gambit, which is quite interesting. I would say a bit tricky, offside a variation, which let's say in the mega database which I search, There are only about 450 games altogether played with this line. Indeed, as on the intermediate level, this opening line is quite popular, and I would recommend you to try and test in your practice. And on your blitz games, of course, for sure, which is quite nice try to play against the Daiji defense. I would like to thank everybody for watching. And next week we are going to study more, I would say, games with ideas of Krejcik. Even I will bring you some games which were played on quite serious level, when also players about 2,500 are using this gambit in their practicing. And as well, we will be more familiar with the typical ways from black side how to meet the Krejcik gambit line. So, thanks everybody for watching, and we will meet next week. If you have any questions, any requests, I just would like to ask you to follow all your emails and all your questions to my website, www.chesslessons.wordpress.com, and I will be happy to answer all your questions. Sometimes I get some funny requests. Let's say someone said that he was using the Elohim defense with great success, but since I just recorded the lecture about the 4 pounds attack, that his successful opponent could be in danger. So he asked me just not to show all the tricks to his future opponents. So it's quite nice from you. Indeed, I bet that it also would be good for the members and fans of ICC, just also to know how to play against the most dangerous, most aggressive opponents, like 4 pounds attack in Elohim defense. Thanks everybody for watching, and see you next time. Bye.